Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk podcast. This is your United show. This is Devil's Advocate. I'm your host, Keane. We're here today to talk Manchester United versus Real Sociedad. Also going to review Manchester United versus West Ham on the stream here today. Also, we will be chatting Casemiro's effect on United's team. We'll also talk about the resurgence of Diogo Dalot. We're also going to discuss Donny van de Beek as well as the Real Sociedad game as well. So we have a lot to delve into tonight. I will be joined by Jamie McCoy, and he will be jumping on there just in a moment or two. So do smash like the video, guys. Do hit that subscribe button. And as always, look, we do appreciate your support. But I suppose, look, I said it, look, I'll kick off the stream anyway, just while Jamie's sorting his internet out there on the stream. So, like, I suppose start off by talking about the West Ham game on the weekend. Look, I think West Ham are always a tough opponent for Manchester United, especially post Fergie. I think they've always been kind of a team that's always given us a good game. And I think Sunday was no different. I thought the midfield battle was very interesting. Thought, like, you look at players like Scamacca, players like that, that they would be a threat. But I thought, Lisandro Martinez and Harry Maguire done very well against them. But it was another good sign of progress. I think if you look at like us winning the big games at Old Trafford, such as Arsenal and Liverpool, games like that, Spurs as well. It was good to see that we were playing a team we're supposed to beat, and we actually beat them at Old Trafford the other day. And like quite rightly, it probably could have been by more. You look at chances created and stuff like that. I suppose, like, for me, to see players like Joe Maguire come back in, I thought it was fantastic to see Harry Maguire come back in and have a good performance. When you consider Harry Maguire was out for quite some time since the Brentford game in terms of Premier League games, and he came in, I thought he looked quite assured. He was good on the ball. He won his individual battles. So he didn't step out of line. I thought Maguire did come in. Obviously, Lindelof was out at the time. He wasn't even in the squad. So, it was good for Maguire to come in and actually put on a decent performance. Because when you look at the pecking order, United centre-backs at the minute, obviously Martinez and Varane are the first and second choice at the minute. I'd probably say, Martinez is probably United's undisputed first choice centre-back. I think if you look at Rafael Varane, obviously he's first choice as well. But the reason why I say that is obviously injuries. Varane has an injury record. So when I mean first choice captain, I think first choice centre back, Lisandro Martinez is that player, and he's someone who I think, if we do look down the line, he's going to be probably one of our most crucial players this season. And when you look at some of the hysteria about him being 5'9" and all that bullshit that pundits and ex-players have been talking about Lisandro Martinez, I think he's proven that agenda very wrong. And when you come up against two strikers like Scamacca and Antonio and they don't get a sniff, I think that's a testament to how good Lisandro Martinez is. Now we actually will get another perspective on the West Ham game. Jamie has joined us, so I'm going to bring Jamie in. Mr. McCoy, first of all, can you hear me?
I can. Sorry, I'm having a bit of an issue. So if I go off again, I'll go onto my phone. So just bear with me, people. Sorry about that.
No
Hopefully
worries.
It's all right, though.
You're a grand pal. So I'll come to a couple of comments first before we kind of delve into the discussion, Jamie. Paul's in the comments, says evening, Keane and Jamie, and he also advised the viewers to do smash like the video and do a subscribe. It does help the channel. And Richard is also in the comments as well and says evening, lads. And Paul has a shout here: Lisandro Martinez to be a future Man United captain. If he keeps going on the trajectory the way he's going, and if Bruno doesn't get the captaincy, then look at something like maybe see down the line if Harry Maguire, does leave the club. But Jamie, I was just touching briefly on the West Ham game. Now, look, I know we're here to predominantly talk about the game on Thursday, but sorry, tomorrow actually, because I'm losing track of days. We're here to talk about tomorrow's game, the Europa League. But just briefly, I want to get your thoughts just on our results on Sunday, because I touched on at the start of the podcast that in the big games Old Trafford this season, we've done well, in terms of the Arsenal game, Liverpool game, Spurs game, we won all them games. But obviously this is a game West Ham came to Old Trafford, a tough opponent, but we're supposed to win the game, and we did win the game. And like, when I suppose rivals drop points, we don't usually do that. We always kind of mess it up somehow when rivals drop points. So, what was your overall thoughts, I suppose, on the performance and then also the result as well? Considering we do have to, I suppose, pick up as much points as we can, because this race to the top four is very close at the minute.
Yeah. I was quite impressed by the opposite side of what we've been doing well recently. We've been playing really good football. We've been creating chances, probably not taking them. I think that's probably where our issues lie at the moment this season, not taking enough chances when we've had them to like kill games off. And I think the reason why the West Ham game went the way it did is because we just didn't take our chances. But it is something that's becoming a bit of an issue in the season in general. I think it's something we need to work on. But I was quite impressed because we've been doing very well recently. We've got some big results. We played really well at Stamford Bridge, got a positive result. I think we could have got a win there. And
We played that part, yeah.
I'm starting to sort of like tick a lot of boxes from what I'm seeing with Ten Hag, but the one thing that I wanted to see ticked was, when we play bad, can we still hold the lead? And we did. I don't think it was our best game. I don't think we played as bad as some people said. I think we created enough chances to comfortably win the game, didn't take them. And then we come under the cosh in the end. Defensively, we were solid. Thought Maguire and Martinez were superb. I thought the back four in general was superb. Casemiro quality as well, and we had to just try and show a different side of our game. It wasn't the nice passing, moving sort of interplayed football. It was like, right, let's grind and put men behind the ball and defend as a unit. And for me, it was like, and I've like watched us all season, and I sat in my living room after that game and I celebrated probably more than we'd done all season. And we've had some massive results, so like Liverpool, Arsenal, playing well against Chelsea. So, but that one meant something to me because it was like, right, that's another box ticked. And like, the media can come out and say whatever they want, but there's unity in that team, and there's belief and there's togetherness in that team. And I think that was evident by just the reactions of the players towards De Gea when he was making them saves. So it's another box ticked for me, another positive, and most importantly, another 3 points, and moving on to the next stage now, because we know we can win when we come under the cosh. We know we can play nice football and beat the bigger teams. So we've got to just keep building now, and it sounds stupid, but just keep ticking boxes. And I was really chuffed with it. It was a different type of performance, but you're going to have to win games ugly, and that's a sign of a good team that can do that.
Definitely, and like, I absolutely agree. If you look at like character and perseverance, if you look last season, I always look at the Ralph Rangnick era when I see us play well this season, because last season under Ralph Rangnick, and look, under Solskjaer as well, but like Rangnick was manager for most of the season, we folded in moments of obscurity. Like, we really did. We folded. And anytime a bit of pressure came under us, we folded. And the players looked like they didn't want to be there. Now, obviously, look, there's certain characters in the squad that were there who are not there now, and it's evident why we're playing well. But like, when you look at that, and you look how, like, look, in a game where we're not playing well, we're not playing as good as we usually play, and it was good to see us pick up 3 points when, look, we're under a bit of pressure at the back. If I look at, Harry Maguire come back into the team, I thought, I thought, look, at the end of the day, he's been out for quite some time in a Premier League game. Mm-hmm. He might be under pressure, so he was good. Diogo Dalot, again, look, I know we're going to touch on Dalot kind of later on in the podcast, but like, he's come on leaps and bounds, and like, look at like the defense, and I'm going to give the goalkeeper under this manager. I'm going to give the goalkeeper some credit here. Like, the goalkeeper is, come on, like, his sweeping his distribution, and like, it's getting better. But like, when I look at this team, there's a lot of togetherness, there's a lot of fight, and players are playing for each other. Players are playing for each other. And like, last season, it was all about individuals. Now, last season was literally all about give the ball to Ronaldo and score. If that doesn't work, well, fuck it. Like, that was literally the mentality last season. And this season, look, it's chalk and cheese. Like players are pressing, they're running, they're working hard off the ball. And look, I know, look, we've added a bit of quality to the squad and we've added the right characters to the squad. But I think the manager deserves a lot of credit from where we were in the Brentford and Brighton game compared to where we are now. I think, like, if you look at certain players, they look dead and buried. There's certain players in the squad, like Fernandez, for example. Like, how highly I think of Bruno.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he's someone this season who might struggle, but in reality, he's not getting the goals and assists, that he usually gets. But what Bruno Fernandes is doing is his game is simplified. He's become an integral part of this team in terms of pressing, in terms of leading by example on the pitch. Like, if you look at Bruno's spell since he's become, I suppose, the captain of the team, Bruno's led this team fantastically. If you look at Marcus Rashford's improvement, me and you, we had a discussion a couple of months ago, and you text me and you admitted the other day that you were wrong about Marcus in terms of how integral he can be. But look, if we actually be honest, right? If we be honest with each other right now, like, if you look at Marcus Rashford's form every other season, bar last season, it was borderline 20 goals every season. Like, he was getting assists. Last season, Marcus Rashford came back from shoulder surgery, and he was playing on the right of midfield under Rangnick. Now, you can attest a lot of his form to maybe coming back from a serious surgery. You can attest that to playing out of position, and look, quite right, not rightly, but like you can attest that poor vein of form to probably our fan base as well, because our fan base abused that lad last season. Absolutely abused him. You look at the social media abuse Marcus Rashford gets, it's disgusting from a certain section of our fan base, like, really rip into him every single week. And, like, that wasn't fair in him last season. Like, I think if you look at a lot of things in terms of certain players who were, I suppose, didn't look like they had a future at the club, Ten Hag's come in and given everyone a new lease on life. I think he's come in, he showed accountability as well. When you look at after that Brentford game, we lost 4-0 that day, and he went and ran with them players. He made the players run the 11 or 12K that Brentford outran us by, and he ran it with them. I think what that shows, Jamie, is, accountability. Like, look, the team was held accountable for their, like, lack of fight and lack of determination and lack of application on the pitch. But the manager showed it as well for probably getting the team selection wrong that day. And he went out and showed accountability. So I think that's something that, Erik ten Hag, I think he has a lot of great characteristics. I think there's a lot of positives with this manager, and I really am impressed with him so far. Now, obviously, I think there's a long way to go in terms of where we want to be. Like, look, as you said, James, I think we're taking this on a game-by-game basis. And, like, look, we're not going to sit here and say, like, we should be challenging for the title right now. Like, look, that's long ways away. But look, what we can say right now is we're seeing steady progress under this manager. We're seeing
definitely
a style of play been implemented. We're seeing us doing the basics. We're seeing this team run. Now, people might listen to this who are non-United fans right now, and they're probably saying, like, lads, that's the basics of football. Cop onto yourselves. But if anyone who's watched Man United in the last 6, 7, 8 years, you'll know what we're talking about, like, in terms of what this team lacked. And we're seeing this slowly but surely progress right now. So it is a very good time to be a United fan. I think an exciting time as well. Just for the on the pitch stuff. Now, if you look off the pitch, there's a lot there that, look, us as fans, we can affect through fan protests, through all other stuff with the owners and stuff. Look, that's something that, look, that's in the pipeline. 1958 are doing that right now, and they're pushing to get these owners out. There's stuff happening in the background to get them out. But if we're talking about just strictly on the pitch right now, I think it's a very exciting time to be a Man United fan.
Yeah, no, you've made some really good points there, mate. Just on Rashford, quickly, I think I even said on here, or definitely in chats with you, that I thought he was awful last season, but and I don't necessarily think I got that wrong. I think he was, but where I've sort of took the L a little bit is I wasn't expecting him to kick on, and I actually really appreciated him coming out and saying, you know what, I wasn't at the races last year. Like when he went and done his Sky interview, I thought that was really brave because he has taken a lot of criticism from the fan base. I can't sit here and say I haven't criticised him. I have. Um, and the way that he's come back and the way he's been managed and the way he's been allowed to get his confidence back up, Ten Hag showed belief in him to put him as the number 9 as well, which I actually think we play better with him through the middle than Ronaldo. That might be controversial, people listening, but that's the way I see it. And I think the likes of, I mean, I'm having the same issue with Sancho. Like, I'm kind of losing hope with him. And I'm kind of like, I need to probably learn from the Rashford situation, but I also think Jaden needs to look at Marcus and think, you know what, he was out of form. Like, what did he do to get back in form? Because he ain't playing very good at the moment. But the thing I like about Ten Hag, and I totally agree with everything you said, mate, he's the first leader I feel like we've had probably since Mourinho, but Mourinho led in a different way.
Mourinho, I don't think
Football,
Mourinho took accountability for his mistakes. I absolutely agree with you. If you look at the way
yeah.
Mourinho was a leader. Mourinho had done it in a certain way. But when Mourinho was wrong, he never took accountability. And I think
Yeah,
that's
I
the
agree.
difference between Ten
100%.
Hag and Mourinho.
Yeah, like when you're putting your shoes on and going and putting the miles in with the players, like you said, accountability. Like when I heard that, I thought, what a breath of fresh air this guy is, because he didn't just put it on the players and fling them under the bus. He said, no, do you know what? I picked the team. I'll put the yards in as well. And ever since then, like I've bought into him from the start. Anyway, I think there was certain managers, certain fans, sorry, that maybe wanted Pochettino, wanted somebody else, but I wanted Ten Hag, because he's a modern day manager. He's a forward thinking 2022 manager. The game has evolved. You need to be able to play different systems. You need to manage players a certain way. And I think every single stumbling block that he's had to deal with since he came in the door, like the Ronaldo issues, the walking off early, he's dealt with, like the media has jumped all over us like they do, and he's just dealt with it like so professionally. And I can't give him any more credit than that. I just think, you know what, you're a breath of fresh air, what you're doing. And he's rejuvenated players like Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw was another one. I lost
Yeah.
hope on him. And then he brings Malacia in and gets competition again. The defensive work that he's done with Dalot is unbelievable. Like he looks like a totally different player when he's going back to his back to goal. Everybody knew Dalot could go forward. He's Portuguese. They are attacking fullbacks. But defensively, he always had a massive question mark against him. And now he looks like he's just as good defending as he is going forward. He looks comfortable on the ball. He's picking his passes right. The movement in the midfield allows the wing backs to give and go. There's so many positives. We could do a whole show on it. But yeah, like every single point you made, I totally agree with you. But I just wanted to jump in on Rashford because I have been critical of him as well. And I'm like delighted he's proved me wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, because he looks like a quality player again. And we all knew he had that ability, but you have to prove it on the football pitch. And one thing I will say about Rashford as well, I won't go over it too much, but he had a lot going on. Everybody knows that when we all were dealing with COVID and that, he really stood up to the plate for the children and done amazing work. But that was it an MBE he got, or
Yeah, you got an MBE, yeah.
yeah, like that's going to take its toll, you know. Like he had to do so much like around that campaign, and what an amazing campaign, you know. What a beautiful human being he is, by the way. Like
Glad he's one
from
of
a
our own. It
human
makes it worse that
perspective,
he's one of
like
our
what
own.
a guy. But like we have to judge him on football. And although I criticized him last year, I always said on my Twitter, this isn't personal to him. Like I don't know the person. What I see in the media from what he's doing for the children is amazing. I'll always, if anybody that follows me on Twitter, follows me anywhere, or sees me criticize a player, it's never personal. It's always about what they're doing on the field. Like I don't have a clue what Jadon Sancho's like as a person, but I know how much money my team paid for him and how much he's not delivering at the moment. So I'll have something to say on it. I'm sure he doesn't care what I think. I'm sure he's not even going to hear it. But it's just an
Oh,
opinion, you know. But
he listens regularly. He does. He's a regular listener.
we're we're we've all got opinions, you know. Sometimes I've got a big gob, you know. Maybe that's why I get put on shows like this, you know. Sometimes, but it's all opinions, and we all want to be proven wrong. That's the one thing I will say about players. And Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford have proved me wrong. So yeah, Jaden, if you are listening, mate, away, mate, come on.
Do you know what? And me and Shane were Shane's in the comments. Good evening, by the way. But me and Shane were talking about this. It was a couple of weeks ago about Shaw, and it's like he's so frustrating because do you know when he doesn't have competition, he rests on his laurels. But do you know when he has competition there, we've seen it with Williams, we've seen it with Tellez. He's arguably one of the best left backs in the league when he has competition.
He's so good as well, isn't he? That's the thing. It's so frustrating.
It is. It wrecks my head because, like, I always say it, and like I get slaughtered on this podcast. I get slaughtered in the group chat. I say like, there's a player in there, Luke Shaw. I see it. There's a player in there, like, and like even when you watch him for England, like he's Sorry, I'm saying sorry for swearing on my own pod, but he's deadly for England. Like, do you know what I mean? He's so good. And it's frustrating that we can't get this on a consistent basis. I think going forward, though, I think Ten Hag has a big decision to make on Luke Shaw. Like, does he go all in? Because I know we have young Malacia, and I know he's probably going to get bedded in anyway. But I think Ten Hag has to make a decision with Luke Shaw. When you consider, like, you know, we've Malacia coming through. You know, we've Alvaro Fernandez, who's ripped it up at Preston now, by the way. He's been unbelievable. So he's that decision to make. Does he like, you know, put his eggs in the Shaw basket? Because if he can't be that consistent player, and I know he's playing, I know he's being very good now, and he's been very consistent since he's come back into the team. But there is always that lingering concern with him, like with his track record at United, that there's going to be that drop off, and there's going to be when Shaw's playing well, he's brilliant, he's one of the best in the league. But when he's not playing well, the drop off is massive. It's very bad. Like, it's very, very bad.
He almost looks more comfortable, like, when he goes forward. You know, I know he need to be good defensively, but it's like sometimes he gets the ball and he's a little bit too, like, patient, and he'll pass back a lot and that. And I think just go forward. Like, when you go forward, you make space for yourself. Like, your passing and crossing ability is really good, you know. And the good thing about Luke Shaw, and you'll have to let me know what you think about this as well. We've got competition for him now, so he knows that if he's slacking a little bit, Ten Hag's not shy to drop people. I mean, look at the situation with Sancho at the moment. Look at Ronaldo; he'll drop you, you know. And that's the thing I like about, like, when he was at Ajax, Ten Hag. When he joined United, I watched a good podcast from quite a big Ajax outlet, and they said Ten Hag doesn't like to change his 11. Like, if he doesn't have to, he likes to keep a solid 11. Obviously, you have to chop and change because of the amount of games. But at Ajax, he had a quite consistent team. So I'm starting to see now he does favour certain players. And you know certain players are going to be in the team, like Eriksen. But he's bedding in players like Casemiro, who looks fantastic, by the way. And he's got little competitions now. You know, like, he's got competition for places. And he knows if Shaw's not at it, Malacia will be chomping at the bit, because the kid didn't really do anything wrong. I mean, he had a bad game against Manchester City, but didn't we all? So it's a case of them little sort of one-on-one duels to get a position in the team is really healthy. And I feel like everybody's talking about a right back at the moment, and I feel like Dalot needs it as well. You know, he doesn't fancy Bissaka, so let's go out and buy a right back. I think Max Aarons was linked today. I think we've been linked to Frimpong. So, like, that type of player that's not quite ready yet, but good enough to put a little bit of pressure on Dalot. That's good competition.
Summer as well. Like, if you look at right back, we've eaten there coming back in the summer, who was ripping it up at QPR at the minute. Now, me and Shane were on this podcast there last year, and we were saying there probably should be our starting right back. This is when both Dalot and Wan-Bissaka were playing really, really poor at the time. Like, they were both thinking it out. And me and Shane were saying, like, look, Ethan Laird's probably the one. Now, I think the concern with Laird then was injuries, because he had a couple of injuries in a row. But Ethan Laird's quality, and we've seen actually on the pre-season tour that Ten Hag really rates him. He spoke highly of him. So look, it'll be interesting to see, if Ethan Laird when he comes back from loan, can he challenge Diogo Dalot? for that right back spot. And just to kind of touch on, like, I think if you look at Dalot at the minute, like if you look at the right backs in the Premier League this season, obviously, like, look, if you look at Reece James, I think obviously he's the best right back in the league at the moment. Like, look, that's undisputed. I think he's quite good. Kyle Walker's been out with injury, for a large majority of the season.
Trippier's been class
Cancelo's
as well.
Yeah, he's been very good. Like, Cancelo's predominantly playing left back. Like, if you look at Diogo Dalot right now, like, he's alongside Reece James and Ben White as the best right backs in the league this season. In my opinion, now this could get clipped up and I get called an absolute idiot. But honestly, right now, if I look at in form and I'm looking at consistency, Diogo Dalot is probably in the top 3 right backs in the league this season on form. Now, if you're talking raw ability, he's probably nowhere near that in terms of obviously the Trents, Reece Jameses, Cancelo's, players like that. But Cancelo's playing left back now. But if you look at, like, just on form, just form alone, if you're looking at the form guide and you're looking at consistent performances this season, I think Diogo Dalot's up there with the best right backs in the league this season. Which, look, if you actually look in reality, last season, like, I was talking to Lee Lawrence, who's a former fullback at Man United. I do a podcast with Lee Lawrence every week. I talk to him on a weekly basis. And Lee Lawrence said to me last night, he's not going to make it as a United right back. And I agreed with him. Like, we both said it. We both said it on the basis of Diogo Dalot's performances last season. Like, there was no way in hell I thought he'd be starting for Man United as right back this season, let alone be United's, like, one of United's best defenders, most consistent defenders. But not only that, one of the most consistent in the Premier League this season. I think he's been outstanding. But again, I think that's down to the player working hard. But also, look, I think the manager can take a lot, of credit for how tactically he's made Dalot make great decisions. And also the system as well. I think the system really helped him as well.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. I think I actually caught you and Lee having a chat about Diogo Dalot a wee while ago. I can't remember when it was, but
it was definitely at the end of the season, because I think we were both our wits.
I was watching one of your shows that you were doing together, and you were talking about Dalot, which I totally agreed with you at the time. But now you do good work with Lee. Shout out to Lee as well. He's a spot on guy. But yeah, I like literally nailed it on the head there, mate. System, like, he's got a system in place, and Dalot just fits that system. If you look at the attacking right backs he had at Ajax, even when he was at Utrecht, he had Kleiber there, who's a really good right back. Not the level of an Ajax player, but they actually signed him off the back of doing well at Utrecht, but he's moved on now. I think he's at Feyenoord. But like, it's a system that has to fit in, and he's had Dest, he's had Mazraoui, who nobody really knew about these players until they were playing at Ajax in that system with Ten Hag, and now everybody sees them as top quality right backs, so it's a case of he's improved them players, and he's doing the same with Dalot, but it has to work in the system, and the type of right back like Ten Hag wants in his squad, Dalot fits that with his traits and his attributes. Like, he's physically a fit guy. He's fast. He's good in that. He's like quite a bullish defender. He will go in for a challenge. He's good in the air. But it's always been his positional game that I think Dalot struggled with. I think he even struggled with it in Portugal. I remember watching him for Porto, and everyone knew he had so much ability, playing predominantly at left back for Porto, but his decision making, like, positionally wasn't great, but he was young, and then he comes to Man United and we buy the potential, but now we're seeing past the potential and we're seeing like a first team quality right back that fits into a system like a glove. And he's obviously had work done with him to improve his positional game, and now he looks the full package. So it's so important for players. Like, I know obviously you're very tactically clued up and systems and stuff, but some people are not interested in that with football. I'm like over interested in it because I coach myself, but systems fit players. Sometimes players don't fit systems, and sometimes the players can be world class and it just doesn't work. How many systems do we see around top clubs in Europe where certain players just don't work, and that's
Look at
why,
Jack
because they
Grealish right
don't
now.
fit a system. Yeah,
Like, look at
yeah,
Jack
he's a
Grealish right
prime
now. He's a
example.
decent example of that.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, mate.
Yeah, it's literally it. Like, and I think, look, if you look at how, like, there's loads of aspects of Dallow's game that's really improved, and
Mm.
I'm just interested to see kind of how he evolves because, like you said, I think Dallo is very young still. He's still very young, and I think there's levels that he can still reach.
Mm.
And just based on the evidence I'm seeing this season, that he's had the ability to improve. So look, he's doing quite well. It's going to come to a couple of comments now. I did say, look, I'm not going to miss your comments, guys. I'm not ignoring them. We've just been in a deep chat here, so I do
Always happens
apologize.
when we're together.
Yeah, it always happens when me and you are on a show. But look, trust me, we'll come to the comments. Firstly, come to Del Boy's one, and I'll give this one to you, Jamie. And he says, would you guys like to get? Would you guys like Rashford to get a new contract, or is he now just playing for a contract like Aubameyang did for us? Take that one there, and I'll answer it as well.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's the same situation as Aubameyang. Aubameyang was chasing his last contract potentially at Arsenal at the time. I know it didn't work out like that at the time, but sorry, my dog just walked in. Sorry about that. Put me off there. Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Goodness me, that caught me way off guard because the door was closed and she just got in somehow. Anyway, yeah, I don't think it's the same situation. I think Aubameyang was fighting for that contract because it was potentially a massive deal. Well, it was a huge deal at the time, and it was going to be his last contract, and he was going to be Arsenal captain, and he was going to retire there, blah blah blah, and it didn't work out that way, which can happen. But I think with Rashford, his head, I mean, we touched on it earlier on in the show. His head's back on his football, and we can only judge him for his football. And he's playing out of his skin at the moment. He's scoring goals. He looks confident. He's running at players again. So he's got back the attributes and the traits of a player that we all love watching. Like he wasn't committing players last year. He wasn't running at players. He wasn't doing the simple things. He wasn't passing and moving. They're playing them little 1-2s, running in behind, causing issues, and he's doing all that. So, like, you can only judge him on what he's doing on the pitch. And for me, he definitely gets a new deal, but he needs to appreciate that new deal. He get a massive pay rise as well, which is great for him. But it's a
He's
case
already
of
on.
he needs to
He's
just
already on 50 bags a week,
yeah,
so if it's a
yeah.
massive
He's not
payroll,
short of money, is he? Let's be honest. But
yeah.
it's a case of just keep grounded. I think he's under the right manager to keep him grounded as well, and just keep improving. And he looks like a stalwart on that right side, the left side, sorry, of the pitch. He was never good on the right wing, so that was an issue under Ranić. Ranić was putting him in the squad just to try and play him into form, and it didn't work. It kind of had the opposite effect on him, and maybe like a little break in pre-season. He went away to America, put a lot of work in, and we're seeing that now. So yeah, definitely a new deal for me. Sorry, I went around the houses a bit there because of the dog. Sorry about that.
Oh no, you're all right. You're grand. Don't worry about it. Look, I agree. I think the Rashford being coming up to the end of his contract is way different to Aubameyang. I think first of all you have to consider the age of the players.
Yeah.
Rashford is not on his last big contract yet. I think look, they're completely two different situations. Rashford is a United man. Joe Rashford is, obviously come to the academy. He loves the club. Like, I don't mean to be disrespectful towards Arsenal, but Aubameyang didn't love Arsenal. He didn't. He's gone to Chelsea. I think that should highlight that. If that'd be like Rashford now wanting the last big contract and fucking off to Man City. I think that's what that'd be like. But at this moment in time, I think they're not two different situations. I think what I understand what the comparison he's making in terms of their form when the contracts were coming up. I can see that. I can see that comparison. But in terms of, is Rashford playing for a last big contract? No, Rashford's playing for his United career. I think there's a bigger difference.
Yeah.
In that situation, I think Rashford is playing well and he is taking the boxes at the moment. So look, hopefully he gets the contract and hopefully he stays. And look, I do agree with Jamie. Jamie said, he's Erik ten Hag who will keep him grounded, and I think he has the right manager to do it. Now, Jamie, before we kind of talk about tomorrow's game, I'm going to briefly talk about a player I know you love. Now, it's not Donny van de Beek. That's for the end of the podcast. That's the debate we're going to have at the end.
Great.
We're going to talk about Casemiro. He's come in. A lot of rival fans criticised this transfer. Saying this wasn't the player United need. This doesn't make sense. He's overpriced, overrated, blah, 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 blah. We knew Casemiro was going to come in. We said on the pod, he's going to be mustard. He's going to be a brilliant Man United player. Now, we were actually on a show a couple of weeks, well, more than a couple of weeks ago now, but I was saying, look, get him in as soon as you can, let him get used to the Premier League, and people are saying also, mind his minutes. There was difference of opinion. Mm-hmm. But all that aside, all the difference of opinion, not rival fan bullshit that do saying Casemiro is not going to succeed for Man United. What do you make of his impact? Because I was at Old Trafford last week and I was watching him, and I was literally just admiring everything he was doing in terms of reading the game, on the ball, off the ball. I thought he was just absolute mustard watching him in person. By every other game, I just absolutely loved him. I thought, if you look at number 6, Man United haven't bought a proper number 6 in their prime since Michael Carrick. If you want to talk about, obviously, Hargreaves actually as well, but he was more box to box. But we haven't bought a number 6, in that time. And he's just come in. He's highlighted the reason why we were screaming for United to buy a number 6. And look, go ahead. Just talk to us about Casemiro, Jamie.
He's I think an important thing to be said about Casemiro and in general, I think all the signings have hit the ground running, which I just didn't think was going to be the case. You've got Anthony's, obviously he's very raw, but what a talent he's going to be. He just looks like a Man United winger. He's got that arrogance of a young Ronaldo and Nani. He's not scared to commit players. He's got that Brazilian arrogance about him. Martinez, I can't remember loving a United player so much. Just everything about him, I just love him. I think the whole fan base, I see that butcher on that bridge of the big flag, and I thought that was absolutely amazing. But and all these players have kind of come in straight away and played. Malacia as well, he's done fantastic. And then you had Casemiro, and we were right, okay, we're signing a world-class midfielder here. We've got Fred, we've got McTominay. They've not been great. They've took a bit of a hit in the fan base. A lot of fans don't really trust them, particularly when they play together. We need that player. Every other team has that player, and you're always looking at them and thinking, God, why don't we have a Fabinho? Why don't we have a Rodri type player? And then we went and bought Casemiro, and everyone you know what? He's over the hill. Real Madrid don't sign bad players, players that are good anymore, and blah 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 blah. And then he got bedded in, which I was a bit what's going on here? But now, talk about, I don't like using this word a lot for a player, but what an absolute Rolls Royce footballer, by the way. I think that it's put around so much, that Rolls Royce word for a footballer, and I feel he is the epitome of a Rolls Royce. He just keeps the game simple. His passing ability for a defensive-minded midfielder is fantastic. His work rate is unbelievable. Positionally, he is absolutely immaculate. He just does the simple things. Every time he gets the ball, I'm completely calm watching, and I'm a bit jealous that you went over and you've watched Martin, because I haven't been to Old Trafford this season. I haven't been able to get over, partly due to having holidays and stuff like that. But I'm eyeing up a couple of games. I know you did, to be fair, and it just wasn't the right timing. But yeah, I'll give you a mention for that. I appreciate that. And you always try your best to get me tickets, so I will give you credit on that as well when I ask you. And you've got me some before in the past, so you're a good man. But yeah, I'll definitely be over soon. I'm actually,
before we proceed in that, I'm not someone who has access to heaps of Man United tickets now. Before people listening into this are going to message me and be asking me, do you Stratford End for Liverpool game now? Come on, before that even, before it gets.
I love how you have to explain yourself. That's absolutely class. But Keane's a guy for tickets, man. Don't listen to it. Nah, I'm joking. He does his best. If he gets offered, he's always very kind to ask me if I would like them. So shout out to you there, mate, for that one. You're a good egg. But nah, he's just brought a level of quality to the team that we've not had, like you say, since maybe Hargreaves or Carrick. Different types of players to Casemiro, them too. But him and Eriksen, I mean, Christian Eriksen, what a player, mate. Honestly, I didn't realise he was that good. And maybe that's me being naive, but I knew he was class at Tottenham. But like, I didn't watch enough of Spurs to warrant how good he is. And like, talk about a player that just does the right things with the ball. Like, he never ever loses possession. You know, like he's always looking for that pass in between the lines, that ball out wide over the top to get Rashford in behind, or Anthony in behind, or Anthony 1-on-1. Like,
I like
such an
how he
intelligent footballer.
I like how he's like, remember, like we've always kind of talked about unlocking Pogba. And like, if we had Casemiro and Eriksen in midfield with Pogba now, we'd probably see a different Paul Pogba. That's besides the point. But he's really unlocked Fernandes this season, I feel. Because I feel like Fernandes doesn't have the creative burden being the only creator in the team. I think we're seeing consequently a better Bruno because Eriksen's in the team. I feel like we're seeing a better Rashford because Eriksen's in the team. I feel like, Casemiro, some of the responsibility of being that world-class midfielder has been taken away from him because Eriksen's in the team. I feel like he's improving everybody around him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think he brought that level of world-class to that team. And then Casemiro came in and just added to it again. And you look at that midfield three of Bruno, Casemiro, and Eriksen, like that's just world-class ability there. Like they're all world-class players. And when you've got like that pace and skill on the wing, the finishing ability from Rashford, you've got Ronaldo that can still score goals. I mean, the jury's out with Ronaldo, and that's for another show. But some people want him to say
that's an hour and a half podcast on its own.
Yeah, it definitely is. But he's still got something to offer while he's at the club. I'm in the minority of we just need to enjoy him until he's gone. So hence why I don't really criticize him. But like there's so much ability in that team, but you have to have the right players in the right positions to allow the more technical players to get on the ball, knowing that you've got a fantastic world-class defensive midfielder who's positionally fantastic to allow you to go and create. And Dalot and Shaw's game has improved more with Casemiro in the team because they can go ahead of him and they know that he will cover them. And I think that's another aspect of the game. But I didn't realize, I knew he was a world-class defensive midfielder. Like he's always been a world-class defensive midfielder. But I didn't realize how technically good he was. Like his passing ability is fantastic.
Isn't it mad how we didn't realize that? Because he in that midfield at Real Madrid, he had Modric and Kroos in there who were unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just such a good blend. And as I say, consistently, they're going to be the three that play now, and like you said, that like having that creativity from Eriksen takes the pressure off Bruno. So that's great. But then it takes the pressure off of Eriksen having Casemiro behind him, or next to him, so there's a lovely little sort of interlink there of taking pressure off of each other to allow them to flourish in the game, particularly Eriksen and Bruno. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to play with Casemiro. Just such a calm player, does everything right, and he's just brought a sense of world-classness to that role in the team. And it's like you say, Michael Carrick was a totally different player. He was like a sort of like a quarterback in the NFL where he could pick passes out left, right, and center and dictate from deep. But Casemiro was a bit of a different type of player. But they're both on equal so important to that team, and we haven't had that for so long. We've been stuck with Fred and McTominay, who kind of need each other just to play well. But then when Fred's coming on and McTominay's coming on, there's no pressure on them now, and they're playing well. I mean, that game for Fred against Tottenham was the best game I've seen him play for the club. He was phenomenal. But it's right tactics for right games, and we seem to be getting that right. But there's always a good you always dictate a good squad, a good group of players, like a team, from their spine. And our spine, if you look at our spine, is De Gea, Martinez, Varane when he's available as well, Casemiro, Bruno, and then up top, whoever you're going to put up there, like that spine of that team is a quality spine. And I always say, like, good teams are built on solid spines, and we've got
Yeah,
one.
100%. And look, he's come in, and I think he's just improved so many different aspects of this football club on the pitch. And look, hopefully, look, at the end of the day, he's 29, 30. He is a short-term option, but I think if you look at the way Eric Ten Hag, I think he's going to go back in for another midfielder. So I dare to say, like, I think Ericsson is a stopgap as well. But I think if he's still looking at players like Frankie de Jong, Bellingham, etc. Like, there's players out there who Man United are looking at for that central midfield position. Obviously, long term, I think Fernandez is still there for the long term. I actually think, I know Paul touched on the comments a while ago that, that Martinez, if you're United captain, he very well will be. But I believe Manchester United's next captain is going to be Bruno. I just look at the way he carries himself. I think he's a leader. He's just an absolute shithouse. You need that as your captain. You need absolutely all them aspects, but also quality as well. I think he is that. But yeah,
Quickly on what's your take on Martinez then? Because I haven't had the chance to speak to you about him, but like I've never been more happy not to get Timber. And Timber's a quality player, but I didn't realize Martinez was so good, mate. I'll be honest with you. Like, I knew he had technical ability and he done well at Ajax, but like I never thought he would be this good, mate. And I'll hold my hands up to that. He's another Rolls Royce centre back, and the people that criticised him, but after 2 games, like, shame on them. And the thing is, the little snakes are still in the media, still giving it to him because they just can't accept that they were wrong and they got it majorly wrong. Like, they should come out and say, we got that one wrong. He's been absolute breath of fresh air. Like, but they won't. But look, like, what a player. Like, I've been so impressed with. He's probably my favourite player, I'll be honest with you. Like, I love his tenacity. I love how calming he is on the ball. Like, his strength in the challenge, his aerial abilities. Like, he's just a typical Argentinian. That's why I loved Tevez. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Tevez because of the Man City thing. Yeah, I know you're one of them, so I won't go into it. But like, Argentinians have a bit of spite, like they do, and he's got it in abundance. Like, and you need a little bit of that. And I feel like the reason why the fan base love him so much is because he's got that chip on his shoulder. Like, he wants to be the best, and he'll fight for the cause. And like, a lot of Argentinian players have that, like top quality Argentinian players. They have a red card in them from time to time because they're on edge, but that's how they get the best out of themselves. And I think he's another one. Like, what an absolute fantastic signing he was.
Yeah, brilliant. Like, look, and I think when I look at certain parts of his game, I look at his height and I'm like, the way he reads the game, the way he tackles, how strong he is against his players who are supposed to be stronger than him, supposed to be stronger than him. Like, the way he deals with all that and the way he's good on the ball, like every aspect of defending, he's just brilliant. And you mentioned some of the people in the media who, like, let's be honest, who are still scrutinizing him. If I'm not gonna make an accusation towards some of these people. I'm not gonna make a full-fledged accusation towards some of these people because I know how on video that I could get in trouble for making. But what I will say is, if his name was Joe Lester Martin and he was from England and he was this centre back, they would not be uttering one word. If his name was Lester Martin and he was from England and he was in the England squad, they would not be uttering one word. That's just a fact. If he wasn't playing for Man United, they would not be uttering one word. It's just because these are bitter old people, who, to be fair to them, as managers, didn't achieve much in the game. There's certain players out there, ex-players out there, who never won league titles, who are criticizing them. Like, honest to God, like the analysis of Lisandro Martinez from the beginning has been embarrassing. It really has, and I'm really biting my tongue here because I don't want to really go on a rant or anything like that. But yeah, look, he's just been absolutely brilliant. I think there's still a lot more he can do. I think he's in early stage of his Premier League career. I do think we're going to see a proper world-class defender, and I actually think But at the end of the season, he's probably going to be in team of the season. I actually think he will be.
Mm.
If he keeps on this form, I don't see as to why he won't be in team this season. I think if you look at centre backs in the league this season, I think Martinez, like whether you want to shape it or not, it's between him and Saliba for best centre back in the league this season. And then you obviously have Christian Romero as well. If you look at them, I think they're whatever order you have it in. Like I think Romero's third anyway. Like it's a toss up between Martinez and Saliba this season for best centre half in the league. I don't think Martinez has been spun like Saliba did at Old Trafford against Rashford, but that, like, look, we leave that debate up there for that. But like he's been very consistent and he's been brilliant. And look, I think it's a great sign about Ten Hag. And you mentioned like you've never been so happy to see Timber not sign for Man United. I actually think Timber will still sign for Man United, and it probably will happen after the World Cup. But hot take, he actually might be signed as a right back, not a centre half. And he plays right back as well. He may be signed to he may be signed to challenge Diogo Dalot as the right back. And also, if you think about like Maguire's situation as well, that's still up in the air. I know he's playing decent since he's come back in the Sheriff game and the West Ham game. So like, watch this space on Timber. I think that story isn't over. No, that's not gospel. That's just personal opinion before it gets taken out of context. Before I get DMs on Twitter, we signing this player, we signing this player. I'm like, come on, leave me alone, leave me alone. But yeah, look, one thing I will do before we finish up is we've talked a lot about the club. Obviously, we have a big game tomorrow against Real Sociedad, so we are going to do those start 11 predictions, and we'll also do our score predictions at the end. But then we're going to talk about Donny van de Beek at the end, because I know we have a question there from Jarvis, which I will come to. But we're going to have a little conversation about Van de Beek. I think it's been a long time coming that me and you have a conversation about Donny at Manchester United. But what we'll do is we'll name our starting 11s here collectively for tomorrow's game against Real Sociedad, live at 5:45 tomorrow evening. So whoever's finished at 5 o'clock from work tomorrow, you better get home fast and do put your feet up and watch the Reds. But yeah, and Jamie, hit me with your 1 to 11 for tomorrow.
I think he'll. I think the back four will probably. I think he'll go with De Gea, obviously, in net. He'll go with Shaw. I mean, Malacia has played in the Europa League, but I'm not expecting him to play tomorrow because it's an important game. I think he'll go with the more experienced player in Shaw. Dalot will obviously be right back. I think he'll go with Maguire and Martinez. They played relatively well. They played really well at the weekend, to be fair. So credit where credit's due. I think he'll stick with them. I think he'll go with Casemiro, Eriksen. Bruno obviously will play in the cam position, just behind the centre forward. I think he will go with Rashford on the left. I think he might go with Elanga on the right, And I think he'll go with Ronaldo through the middle. I don't think he can leave Ronaldo out of a game like this. Yeah, that's literally the team. Yeah, I didn't see that comment, Paul. I'm not copying you, mate. But I think that's what he'll go with. Whether
yourself and Paul's lineups have a bit of a difference. He said Lindelof and you said Maguire. So.
Oh, of course you did. Yeah, I see that one, Paul. Fair enough, mate. Yeah, I think Lindelof's more than capable. I just think we've got to try and get a tune out of Harry somehow. He's on a lot of money. We paid a lot of money for him as well, and I know he gets criticised, and some of the fan base just will never warm to him. But we've got to give credit where credit's due, and I felt like he done well at the weekend as part of a back four. And I'm tending not to try and judge him as it's a back four now. Players can sort of coast through games, but the back four needs to be solid, and I feel like Maguire done well. I think he was a little bit hesitant with the ball at the weekend. I think he kind of tended to go backwards or sideways with it, but a little bit more braver, passing through into that midfield or driving with the ball, which he can do. I would like to see that a little bit more. That was the only thing I kind of give him a bit of a negative for, but that's me being me. But as a back four, we were fantastic, and I thought he done really well, to be fair to him. So fair play to him, because like Rashford, he's took some pelters, absolute pelters off of our fan base. And you know what? Sometimes you've just got to say, you know what? He played well today, and take one game at a time. So fair play to him for that. And that's why I think he'll just stick with the same team, because it worked at the weekend. And Sociedad have some injuries, right? They've
Yeah,
got some
they've quite a few
injuries.
players out. It's a way different Sociedad squad that played the game at Old Trafford.
It's a difficult
Yeah,
ground to go to, that, isn't it? San
we beaten
Sebastian,
we
isn't it?
well we've beaten them the last two times we've went there. So I
Yeah,
think look, there is opportunity for us to win there.
yeah, I
I'm
agree.
gonna go. I'm gonna go to Gea, Dallo, Maguire, Martinez, Shaw. I do see Richard's comment there says Malacia has to be under consideration. I think he will be. Um, in that respect, I think he will be under consideration, but I do think Luke Shaw will start. Richard says Harry Maguire won't be match fit. Well, neither will Victor Lindelof, because Lindelof was out with injury over the weekend, so he went back training today. So Maguire at this moment in time, at this juncture, is actually more fit than Lindelof right now. So yeah, I know Lindelof played a bit of game time, but Lindelof was actually out over the weekend. So in that respect, I do expect Maguire to play. Yeah, same midfield three. I think he'll go Casemiro, Eriksen, Fernandez, especially if Bruno being suspended on the weekend. I definitely see Bruno starting. Yeah, and front three, I think it's going to be Elanga, Ronaldo, Rashford, but I'd actually like to see Garnacho on the right, Ronaldo up top, and then Rashford on the left. I think Garnacho played really, really well against Sheriff in the Europa League last week, and I think he has that little X factor that he can take on a player, beat a player, especially away from home. I think he could be someone who can earn us a penalty as well. Now, no, that's not something that really is frowned upon, but I think he's a player who could draw fouls. I think he's someone who can be that tricky player. I think he can definitely help us. But yeah, that's the lineup I'm going to go with. Look, that's hopefully, it gets us the win. We do need to win by 2 goals. So, look, something that does need to happen tomorrow. So hopefully we can do it. Now, we will give our score predictions at the end. But I want to bring this topic up to you just to end the podcast. And look, we're not going to spend too long on it. But Donny van de Beek's back from injury at the moment. But he consequently started the season and in pre-season he wasn't playing much. Under this new manager, obviously, who's obviously the manager who made Donny van de Beek into the player that was so brilliant at Ajax. And he played all his best football under Erik ten Hag. First question I'm going to ask you with Donny van de Beek, and I'll give my opinion after I ask you his question, but in your heart of hearts, do you think he's good enough to play for Manchester United when you look at the current midfielders we have the football club in Casemiro, Bruno and Eriksen? Do you see a realistic chance where Donny van de Beek comes back into this team and actually becomes a regular footballer in this team? Because I'll be honest, me and Dave have argued about this countless times. I just don't think, I don't think he has the it factor to play for Man United, and that's just me personally.
Yeah, it's a hard one, because I think I always look. Do you know the way I look at it is I always like players in the 11. I like a similar player, because if you've got a style of play, like you've got a structure of how you want your team to play, you've got what word am I looking for? A system. And you've got certain little pieces of that system that do certain things. And I look at Eriksen, and I think, right, he's technically very good on the ball. He keeps the ball well. He can pass through the lines. He's got everything you need in a deep creating midfielder. But when he's not fit, we need someone that can do that as well. And I see that with Donny, but he ain't getting the chance to do it, which tells me he isn't good enough, because the manager that's here built him into that player, that sort of deep lying running midfielder that gets into spaces and does well at Ajax. And if he's the most similar player in the squad we've got to Eriksen, and he doesn't play him, he doesn't bring him on for Eriksen, and they're very similar. I'm not saying that the level of quality is the same, because it isn't. Eriksen's a much better player. But I mean, using the ball well and finding the pockets and the little passes inside and the line breaking passes, Donny could do that, but he doesn't get the chance. And for some reason, it just ain't working at the club. And I think if it was up to me and I was in charge, I would probably advise him that he needs to leave because I feel like he's hindering his career. I think he's a very good player. I just don't quite think he's at the level of Man United. He will go on to another team and do fantastic. I have no doubt about it, and I hope he does. I do feel sorry for him, but I just don't think he fits in the system. And if he can't replace Eriksen when Eriksen's legs have gone after 75 minutes, he's not going to play. And every time we've had the chance to play him, I know he's been injured, but he's went with like Fred or Scott, and like I'm not the biggest lover of Fred and Scott. I quite like Fred because I think he's unpredictable. I've got a bit of a soft spot for him, but McTominay, I'm a bit on the fence with. I think he just gives stupid fouls away, but I think he's got an element of attribute-wise, he can do a job in Man United's midfield. I don't want to say too much because Amy might be listening and she'll fall out with me, but it's a case of I can see what he offers to the team. I can see what Fred brings to the team. With Donny, I'm like, I don't really know because the one player you could replace, you don't ever replace. And it's that's the way I see it. I don't know if that's made sense. You have to tell me, but I like players that can offer similar traits as the players they replace in squads. That's why you have two of everything in a squad. And it's like, right, okay, you're not going to take Bruno's place. So if you can't get in that midfield too, you're very limited. You're going to be on the bench, and you're probably not going to come on because Scott and Fred are ahead of you. And I think if you sat him in a room. If you come in here with me and I said, Donny, are you really happy at United, mate? Like, do you see a long term? And there was no cameras, no nothing. Just he'd probably go, nah, I think it would probably be better if I found something new in the future. And I think that's probably what's happening behind the scenes, to be honest. Ten Hag don't fancy him, and this is the manager that built the boy. So if a manager that took you from a certain level to a peak level that got you a move to Manchester United, and I think he was in the Champions League Team of the Year that season, weren't he? When
He got nominated for Ballon d'Or. He got nominated for Ballon d'Or.
Like, what a fall! Like, and you can't help but feel sorry for him because he's a good player, but even at Everton, he didn't do nothing, did he? Do you know what I mean? Maybe he's just not cut out for the Premier League, mate.
I said that. I don't think he's cut out for the Premier League. I think on the ball, he's technically sound, and look, that's indisputable. Like he is technically sound, but for me, Donny van de Beek lacks a lot of strength off the ball. I think, like, if you look at his running stats, he's very timid. I just like, if you look at how bad we were with Fred McTominay in midfield for months on end under Solskjaer, Rangnick, he could not get into the team. Now, obviously, Rangnick loaned him out consequently. But he's had Solskjaer, he's had Carrick, he's had Rangnick, and now Ten Hag. And all four managers aren't playing Donny van de Beek. Now, them four managers know a lot more than kids on Twitter. Let's be genuinely honest about Donny van de Beek. These four managers are proper footballing people. Wherever stick I gave Ralph Rangnick for how bad he was last year, he still knows football at the end of the day more than me and you. You know, like he has all the credentials. You know, none of these managers played Donny van de Beek. They all played Scott McTominay and Fred ahead of him. They played Bruno Fernandes when he wasn't performing ahead of him. You know, now you look how well, like, Eriksen's bringing on the ball. And I know you say he's very similar from a technical perspective on the ball. They're similar in that regard. Off the ball or not, though. Eriksen will track back. Eriksen will win back the ball. Now, he's not a serial ball-winning midfielder, but he'll win the ball back if he needs to. Donny van de Beek is not that player.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Donny van de Beek needs to be in a team where they're going to have 70% of the possession every single game, like at Ajax. You know, teams, sitting off, and he's not going to have much pressure in midfield. Like, if you look even at Holland's midfield right now, he's probably, even if he's playing consistent football, the way Van Gaal wants to play, he's probably not going to get into that midfield. You know, like, there's plenty of great midfielders who've come to Man United and haven't cut out. Sebastian Veron was fucking unbelievable.
That's just who comes to my head there.
Didn't work out. Paul Pogba, right? Whatever you can say about his agent and other things that happened at the football club and how he disrespected the football club at times, he's still a very good footballer, and it didn't work out at Man United. You know? Like, there's been plenty of good players who've come to this football club. Angel Di Maria, Alexis Sanchez, Radamel Falcao. Like, there's a load of brilliant players have come to this football club and it hasn't worked out for one reason or another. This is just the same situation with Donny van de Beek at the minute. And I think there's a reason why these football Twitter people are calling for Donny van de Beek to come into the team. Like, I'm gonna say it for how it is. They hate Bruno Fernandes. That's just plain and simple. They hate Bruno Fernandes. Why do they hate Bruno Fernandes? Because Bruno Fernandes was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's go-to man. And Bruno Fernandes pulled Ole Gunnar Solskjaer out of the trenches for months with match-winning performances.
Yeah.
It's literally simple as that. Why these people hate Bruno Fernandes and why Donny van de Beek is the answer. Donny van de Beek wasn't the answer in the relegation-threatened Everton team. How is he going to be an answer for a Man United team who wants to go back to winning titles and winning trophies? I don't understand.
He's not on the same level as Bruno. Like, if people think that the answer is take Bruno out the team and you all of a sudden Donny van de Beek will flourish and you'll see this superstar Dutchman, like, it's not the case. Like, he ain't going to play ahead of Bruno anyway. Like, Bruno's so important to Man United, whether fans like him or not. I mean, I'm the same as you. I love Bruno. I think he can be a bit petulant at times. It's a bit frustrating, particularly when we're not doing well. But like the off the ball work and like the general like harassing of closing down and stuff, you're not going to get that type of play by Donny van de Beek. Like, technically Van de Beek's very good, but he's totally different, and he couldn't play as a just behind the striker for Man United. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I just the way we play, and he's just not got them certain characteristics to be able to play that role, like the pressing and the sort of harassing players on the ball and sort of putting them challenges in and making it awkward and penning people in. Bruno's like really important to that, and I don't think you get that with Van de Beek. If Van de Beek can't play as a deeper play-making midfielder at Man United, he was never gonna work from day dot, and he can't play that role clearly because he doesn't get picked by multiple managers. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said he couldn't get in ahead of arguably the worst midfield two we've seen post Sir Alex easily, Fred and McTominay. So it's a case of that's the writing's on the wall there, and like you say, like
he couldn't get in ahead of Dele Alli at fucking Everton. Let's be real. He couldn't get in ahead of Dele Alli. Like,
yeah, and he's a prime example of career absolutely gone to the muck. But it happened with Klaassen as well. Like when he went to Everton, like he had a great reputation in Holland. This is the next big playmaker coming through. He went to Everton, who had a really decent side at the time, good team. And he didn't do it either. It doesn't mean Klaassen's a bad player. I don't think he is, but I think he's a decent player. He was before he came to Everton. He was a really good player, but it just doesn't work. And I think you hit the nail on the head. And if you put Donny van de Beek up for sale tomorrow, a Bayern Munich after him, Real Madrid after him, the Barcelona want him, the Juventus, Inter, AC Milan, all the top other clubs.
Probably take him with how shit they are, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, but he's fit in a system like Barcelona, wouldn't he? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think we have the right system, and whether you like it or not, like, systems make football at top level. Like, systems are so important, and sometimes it just doesn't work, and you pick the best one of all, Pogba. Like, guy's got ridiculous ability. Bit of a circus that comes with him, but we'll not go into that. Judge him for his football, absolutely fantastic, but it just didn't work, and it happens. Systems is football. Literally. So it is what it is, but I've got the same mindset as you, and I know it's up for debate in our fan base, Donny van de Beek, but I think he's probably going to leave if we're honest.
Yeah, I think he's gone in January, to be honest. I really do. I think after the World Cup he's gone. I think I just look at he's not going to get picked for the World Cup squad. Even if he played the rest of the games between now and the end, which is literally 2 weeks' time. I go on holidays next weekend. That's when the last Premier League game before the World Cup is. If Donny played tomorrow and Donny played Sunday and played next weekend, Donny still does not get into that Holland team. It's not enough time. Yeah. Donny van de Beek is leaving in January. I personally, I just think he's going to leave because he's going to be pissed off that he isn't going to play.
Do you think Kayaks will take him back?
Nah. If you look at their midfield, he doesn't even get into that one anymore. You
It's
know,
interesting you think
I
where he'll
think
go.
Donny van de Beek, if he went to a club like, maybe Marseille or even tomorrow's opponents, Real Sociedad, just to build himself back up, somewhere like that,
Yeah,
maybe,
I think he'd be
you
good at
know,
like a fringe top four German club, like a Mönchengladbach or someone like that, where he's going to
yeah,
play every week. Like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be in Germany, but like, I think you're right. Like Sociedad, like that level of team where he
Sociedad,
can go in.
Marseille,
Yeah,
Lyon, teams like that, like
mm,
maybe, but like I just
yeah,
don't like if you look at the top 10 in the Premier League right now. Arsenal don't take him. Liverpool don't take him. City don't take him. Chelsea don't take him. Spurs don't take him. And Spurs lack creativity, but he wouldn't definitely
I
not
don't
get the
know. I think
temptation.
Liverpool might take him at the moment, mate. But we'll
Maybe,
not get into
maybe.
that.
But even yeah, look, I'll be here for the night if I slag the shit out of them. Newcastle don't take him.
Yeah.
Leicester are bottom half table. Leicester wouldn't even take him. Even Didi and Madison and Tielemans. Like, do you know what I mean? If you look at the teams in the Premier League, why is it no coincidence when Donny van de Beek was available last January? Why is it no coincidence that it was Crystal Palace and Everton looking for him? Two teams were battling relegation.
Mm.
Like why was there no top tier European team in for him?
Yeah, that always dictates a world class player. Like if you become on the market for some reason, do the top clubs want you? And this answer is even the mid table clubs don't want him. So I think it kind of says it all. But there's pros and cons to the arguments in the fan base about Van der Beek. Has he had a chance? No, but is he probably good enough? Probably not. And I think
The
it's
four
it's one of them.
managers aren't
When you
really
open the door, the floodgates
yeah.
go. But the reality of it is, the manager doesn't fancy him, and that's what matters.
There's four managers that didn't fancy him.
Mm.
That's the problem. I'd say something if it was just Solskjaer and then the rest of the managers played him, but they didn't. Like
Yeah.
Ralph Ragnick came in and he came in December, had a look at him and said, "You can go out on loan." Like if he was any good, not that he was any good, but if Van de Beek was this world class player in a time where Ralph Ragnick was coming in, with the expectation of being a consultant. Now we all know what happened there. But if Ralph Ragnick thought he was good enough to be a part of this squad for the rebuild that he was projected to be behind as a consultant with the new manager coming in, he would have kept him. That's just a fact. That's just a fact, and he didn't. Eric Ten Hag is his favorite fucking manager. Didn't keep him. So it is one of them, and I think, look, his time at United is sadly going to come to an end because he did have high expectations coming in, and look,
Richard
it's sadly
just said MLS there. I think he's
he's
too
better than
much in
that.
the peak of his career to be going there, mate. It's a decent shout, but like age wise, I think it just wouldn't make sense at the moment.
Yeah,
But
I think
I think
Bundesliga.
he'll go Europe somewhere. Someone will take him. Maybe someone like Club Brugge or something like that in Belgium. They sign quite a lot of Dutch players. They've got Noah Lang over there, and maybe some club like that might take a little punt on him, or he might go to Fenerbahce or something like that. I don't know. I don't see him going to America though, but it's a good shout, mate.
Yeah, 100%. But look, on that, we're going to wrap up the conversation. We're going to wrap up the podcast there. So a very good show, Jamie. Really enjoyed your company here this evening. But before we finish, we do have to give our score predictions for tomorrow's game. The big question is, Jamie, I present it to you now. Do United win by a 2+ goal margin, and do Manchester United top the group tomorrow?
Well, my score prediction was actually going to be that I think we'll win 2-1. So based on that, no. But hopefully we can stop them scoring and we'll do a 2-0, and then that'll work well for us because we need to win the group. Like, we're more than capable of beating them away from home by a couple of clear goals. We don't want to be playing the Champions League team. So, we just need to win the game first and foremost, but we do need to be top in that group, and we need to be winning the Europa League. Like, let's be real. Like, we need to be winning that tournament. So, yeah, we'll go with it, but a win's the most important for me for the long-term view, but short-term view, yeah, 2+ goals would be amazing.
Yeah, it will be great, and look, hopefully we can go through. I'm actually going to go 3-1 United. I do think we'll probably concede tomorrow. but I think we do it the hard way. I think United go 3-up tomorrow and we're plain sailing, and then all of a sudden we can see the goal and it's squeaky bum time. I get that feeling. We never do anything easy. Now, people might say 3-1 win. That sounds easy. It's easy until we concede that goal and we there's that tension, there's that little, there. I think we'll win 3-1, and goal scorers, I'll go Rashford, Fernandes, and I'll go Luke Shaw as well. I think Luke Shaw might get on the score sheet tomorrow. There's one for you for a bet builder, Luke Shaw, anytime goal scorer. But there's my obviously we gave our predicted 11s, and there's our score predictions. And as always, guys, do smash the like in the video, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on Twitter, go over to YouTube and Weekly Armchair Sports Talk, and drop comments in, drop feedback in, whatever you want to do, and let us know what you thought about today's podcast as well. And as always, just make sure you do get behind this great movement at the moment. It's a very good movement, very progressive movement. It is called the McCoy Out movement. Make sure you go on Twitter and put hashtag McCoy Out. His managerial career is going down the sinker right now. So please, get on this movement and go hashtag Jamie McCoy Out. But until then, guys, thanks very much everyone for watching. Hope you all have a good day. And let's hope United get 3 points and top the group tomorrow. But until then, guys, thanks very much, and we'll see you later.